Hello, my name is Cornel Yuhas, and for the week 14 lesson plan, the novel I'll be talking about is To Kill a Mockingbird. Um, the three practice strategies that I'll be going over are before reading practices, during reading practices, and after reading practices. Um, I'm not gonna get into much detail what of what I'll be doing in the lesson. Not well, I won't be doing the lesson, but I'll be going over what I would do. Um, so for before reading strategies, I would start off with giving a daily journal for students on the topic of racism, just to kind of activate their prior knowledge on racism and what it means to them personally. It won't be shared in class, but it'll be good for them to get their thoughts down. It'll be good for me to read where they're at. Um, which leads, the first strategy for before reading is activating prior knowledge. To repeat myself is just to kind of give me where the students are at, if they know what racism means or not, and if they don't, and I mean if all the, of course we'll be doing a discussion on it after the journal, and just to kind of see what their answers were, and yeah, we would go over racism. Next thing we would talk about is some key vocabulary terms, not necessarily from the text, but just terms that have to do with racism, such as racism, prejudice, and social inequality is one of them. Um, so after the vocabulary, we would discuss, we would introduce some themes. Um, I would go over some themes from the novel, like racism is one, good and evil, prejudice, and just kind of see their prior knowledge on those themes. And we'll briefly discuss it, but we get more into details during the reading process. Um, so that's the before reading strategies. The next would be during reading strategies. So during the reading, we would first would learn about the author of the book, research the author's biography, and what we're looking for is pretty much what was going on in the author's life when the author wrote the book, the historical context, and we would see as we were reading the story if the historical context of the author relates in any way to the story, um, whether or not it does, which majority of the time it does. But so that's one thing we would do. We would also, as the students are reading, we would have them use a dictionary and thesaurus for terms that are unknown, that are in the book that students don't really know of. As they read, they will write these terms down. They will learn to use the dictionary to look up the terms and whatnot. This would fall under the vocabulary, but this is in-text vocabulary, not just words that have to do with the themes of the book. Um, Probably one activity I would do to help is for each term, maybe kind of like a graph, or maybe just have them organized, and for each term, and to have them practice using a dictionary and thesaurus, have them look up synonyms for these words and antonyms. I feel like it would help students get a better understanding than just writing down definitions and looking up definitions of the words. Um, so after vocabulary, we would go into maybe filling out thematic webs for the different themes and the different main ideas of the book. Um, so probably towards the end of the reading, or at the end of the reading, um, for their daily journals, I would want to see if they can make any connections with the text or with the book. See if they have, and then assess their understanding on racism and the other themes that we went over in the book. And then after that, hold class discussions on the text, on what they learn, if they have any questions. And yeah, so that's pretty much the reading strategy practices that I would do. Um, and before I go into the after reading practices, I just want to say that this all happens over a course of several days, maybe a week, 2 weeks, maybe. The yeah, because there's a lot of material to cover in just one class sitting, and I didn't mention this before, but probably for a novel like this or these strategies would probably be good for maybe eighth graders, maybe early high school, but I probably wouldn't go lower than eighth grade maybe. Um, so yeah, so that transitions to my after reading strategies. So after once we're finished with reading the story, we would summarize all the main ideas, all the themes, and all the vocabulary terms that we had gone over the course of the reading and prior to that. We would hold a class discussion after if we have do any other journals, we'd hold another class discussion on what they learned from the book, on summarize on all the summarizations that we're doing, and see if the students will have any questions on anything that they're still wondering about, something that we didn't cover that they would have liked to be covered in class. And then we would also just double check on if they understand the historical context about the author and the story. And this will be a good way for me to assess the students, and then we'd go from there. We'd go into the last strategy that I would do, and that would be evaluating the students. Well, there's two things to it. First, we would evaluate the students. We would evaluate if they know all the vocabulary terms that we've gone over in class. And probably just a simple vocabulary test, nothing fancy for that. But this would cover terms that were from the text and key vocabulary terms that I had given before reading. And then lastly, I would evaluate the students by giving them a test on the novel, an overall test. This will be a good way for me, again, evaluate what the students learn, where I feel like they need more attention on, and it would help me assess what I would want to teach, how I would teach the same lesson in the future, in future years, or with a different class. So yeah, those are my before, during, and after reading strategies on To Kill a Mockingbird, and that's it.